Hi, welcome back to the Launch Point Leader Podcast. My name's Lori.
This is Beau.
And we are so excited to be back here for another week, just sharing a letter that someone has written in about their experience they're going through. If you or someone you know wants to write us in, you can always send us an email to advice@launchpointleader.com. Our letter today says, Dear LaunchPoint, I am leading a team that has been working remotely since 2020, and while we've adapted to the new setup, I've noticed a drop in engagement. Without the daily in-person interactions, it's been challenging to keep everyone connected and fully engaged with their work. It's hard to compare to my team to 2019 to the team I have now. The virtual environment can sometimes feel isolating, and I'm concerned about maintaining team cohesion, morale, and productivity. I'm looking for advice on how to better engage my team in this remote setting. How can I foster a sense of connection and keep my team motivated while we're all working from different locations? What are some creative ways to build collaboration and ensure that everyone feels included and valued despite our physical distance? I do want to take a moment to be clear to say I'm a fan of working remote and don't want to come across as pushing my team back to the office. I know they've chosen a remote job for a reason. I just want to help them know and build trust with their team. Thanks for your ideas, as I know it's becoming more and more common in the current workplace. Best regards, Rallying Remote.
Remote work, man. Who would have thought that it would have been? I mean, and I know it's been talked about so much, but that is one of the things that was probably, for many people, positive that came out of the COVID world.
Yeah,
right?
If you ask a lot of people, I think they really enjoy, just like they said in their letter, they've chosen remote for a reason now, and it is becoming more common.
It is. So you've got to be flexible with it and work with it. I can understand the idea that it might be isolating or the engagement might be down and wanting to build that cohesive team. You know, I think if it's me, I still don't think there is any substitute for getting together and having personal interaction with the other people that are doing work that's similar to yours in your company or working for your company, period. So my first piece of advice would be to get together either for an annual conference or for a couple of times a year, maybe a quarterly retreat, where the job requirement is that you have to spend 2 or 3 days on site or at a neutral site together, where there's not just work, but there's activities to enjoy. Maybe your spouse can come and really just have a moment for that to be vision casting from you as their leader, for that to be, look at what we've done all across this country or all across this town, wherever it is that you're located. Look at all the things that we've been able to accomplish together while working apart, and make intentional time for them to connect with one another and to connect with the mission and the purpose and the results that they have achieved that quarter, that year. I actually think there is no substitute for that. And you might call me old school, I don't know, but I don't think a virtual meeting where I'm in my office and you're in yours and 100 other people are in theirs, I still don't think that can replace being together in the same room, feeling the energy in that room, and all hearing the exact same thing together. So that would be my first piece of advice. Is, if it sounds like you were once in person.
Yeah, it sounds like it says since 2020. So it sounds like previous to that, the role was in person.
So there's either a facility that already is there that you can meet in, or there's probably saved money on overhead expenses that you can use to go and have these retreats. And again, this isn't a business meeting. This is a retreat. You talk about business, but the main objectives are to connect to one another and to connect back to the vision and the mission of the organization and why it's so important. The second thing I would offer is your job as the leader is, in every phone call, in every Zoom or virtual conference that you have, you've got to be, the why has to be, the mission has to be on repeat for you in every single call, in every single interaction, in both words and in picture. You've got to help these folks realize the great work that's going on and recognize their accomplishments and achievements, whether they're individual or they're a team. So you've got to pound the drum on the why and on the mission, and you've got to highlight people and departments that are doing great work for that mission and for that why, even if it is virtually.
Yeah, I love the emphasis on not just verbally, but through pictures and stories and scenarios, because it's a great way to connect, because you really can lose the why a little bit of the big picture sometimes in an office it's hard to see what you're doing in the day-to-day, but especially if you're all in different locations, not even necessarily in the same geographic area, which
Yes.
if you've been remote this long, you probably aren't all in the same geographic area. So showing pictures and connecting people to each other through stories can be really powerful.
Yeah.
I wanted to touch on retreats, of course, which you've mentioned. I
Right.
love the idea of...
Actually, I wasn't even thinking that.
Oh,
But,
well.
but yeah, let's
Well,
go.
we're going to bring it back.
Let's do it.
I love the idea of maybe like an annual touch point for your team of no matter what, when you're on, you know you're going to meet your team at this point. And
Yeah.
you know that's just part of it. And it doesn't have to feel like forcing them back in. I think that in itself feels like a reward. It feels like a really fun opportunity to go to a nice location, whether it sounds like if you're doing a retreat like this, it's really not going to be like an office building. You're just going to spend your time in. It's maybe a few days at like a nice location, somewhere they've never been before. If they have, like, you're having this time together, that feels like a reward and a great connection point where you can have those memories and things to look back on where they get to, because you're right. There's so much you can do in a virtual space. And I think I'll give some virtual options in a moment, but to have that touch point really shows investment and care in a team. And I don't think it feels like being made to come in person. That feels like a reward. And if you want help planning a retreat, LaunchPoint Leader has great retreat packages. If you want just a day in your office, we could even work with some virtual options. But if you want to plan something for your team, for something like this, if you are remote, or even for teams that are in person, getting outside of your day-to-day and breaking that routine helps your brain think more different and creatively than normal.
I think our team started to change when we made retreats a priority. The relationships deepened.
Absolutely.
And the depth of respect for one another went to another level. And the depth of care for the business and the mission of it really went to the next level. And the retreats that we do, and what I'm speaking of and you're speaking of too, is like you said, it's not a business meeting. You can get that done virtually. This is more about connecting with one another. And I do think a remote location is awesome.
Yeah.
Make it fun. Do activities, not team building activities. Just do activities.
Right.
And if people do them together, then great. But just give them, like you said, give them a reward. Give them something to look forward to. Give them something that is a touch point and something that is just that can't help but be a positive in their work life. Yeah.
Yeah, I think those are great. And then, since you are mostly remote, I do want to share just different ways, because this is becoming more and more relevant, especially since 2020. There are so many cool ways to do different online meetings and connections online. Of course, you've all heard of the Zoom happy hour that was a theme of 2020, but there really are cool ways.
Is that coming up soon for us?
Yeah.
Okay.
5:00. We'll actually leave here and head over to that.
This is just water right here.
Yeah.
Right now, so. All right.
But there's way different ways. There's virtual companies that can help you set up escape games that you all do virtually, and you go through this theme together. And
Amazing.
As cheesy as it may feel in the moment, those are fun memories for teams that really can break them out of that. So maybe you are a smaller company that doesn't have the funds for this, or this is something you do quarterly and you've got your annual in-person touch point. There are really creative ways, and I think it's worth looking into, and we could even help you host something virtually like that.
Yeah.
So we're not saying the only way to connect your team is if you meet in person.
Not at all.
Don't hear that at all. There's great ways, but there is still power in human connection, and that's never going to change because humans are built on that kind. But finding ways to connect with them virtually is possible and really cool, because you're right. You've got a group of people that have chosen a virtual job for a reason. They enjoy certain aspects of that. It's probably improved some of their quality of life in commute times and certain things like that. Maybe it's just better for their family situation. But still helping them connect and feel that sense of belonging is so important, because it can be easy to lose that sense of belonging, which can bring so much into an individual's drive to work.
Yeah. I think the other thing that has come to mind is make sure that you still recognize people and performance, even if it's virtually. Also, being able to have an individual or two each meeting, if it's a larger team or a newer team, even if it's an existing team, just have somebody share, hey, this is how long I've been here. This is what I'm working on. This is what I do outside of work. Here's a little bit about my family. Just make those touch points a common occurrence so that everybody else can get to know you a little bit deeper than just that's Lori's face on a Zoom call and she does X for the company, right, and this is Beau and I do Y. And as long as our deadlines are met, there's really no issues. Mm-hmm. Make it personal. And I think being digital, you've got to work harder to make it personal.
You do. But the rewards you can get out of it, of course, as it doesn't seem like that's going to change, right? If they're still not talking about a return to work policy, it sounds like it's not necessarily what you want.
Yeah.
It's not a bad problem. It's just a problem to find a unique solution to that maybe hasn't existed
absolutely
before.
Yeah. And I think there's a lot of good research that's been done around this, especially in the last couple of years. I think the Wall Street Journal has done a lot of good work on this, and I think there's some other Harvard Business Review has done a lot of good work on this too, and just some ideas that you might can find in those two resources could help you with some connectivity on this virtual deal.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything else you want to share to rallying remote?
Man, I don't think so. Like, congratulations on continuing to have a successful company 4 years after going remote, and it being so successful that you continue to stay that way. As the leader, you've got to, like we said, be all about the why all the time.
Yeah.
And then I encourage you to look at some different options for in-person and for virtual that's outside the realm of this is the work that we're doing and this is the work we're reporting on.
Yeah, no matter if you're doing it in person or virtual, I think the connecting theme there is making it about the people and not about their roles in that moment,
Yeah.
like helping them feel a team as people working together, not just a marketing director and a salesperson.
And there's still power, whether you're remote or not, there's still power in a handwritten note. So don't overlook the lost art of handwritten notes. Even if it's virtual or in person, it's an unbelievable keepsake that I have found.
I love getting mail.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fun. It's a good surprise and a great way to connect, especially if you are only seeing something on a computer screen.
Yeah.
Something about getting a letter from your boss.
This
that
person's
you've only,
real.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
It just makes it seem that way. So I think that's a really cool personal touch as well.
Absolutely.
We don't want to forget.
And lastly,
Yeah.
call us for retreats. We're
Absolutely.
here.
On our website, write us in on our email, on social media. We will hook you guys up. Great retreat, fun memories.
Done.
And we're just fun to be around in general. So
Period.
having us around is just going to lighten the mood in general.
Ridiculous. Your company will get better just because of that.
You'll love it.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, Rallying Remote. We appreciate you listening in. And for everyone else out there, if you want to write in and just share with us maybe a similar situation or something totally different, we're always open at advice@launchpointleader.com. Thank you.
See you next time.